Hey guys, somelongname here. If you've just recently started Maimai, you've probably heard of the Umiyuri pattern before. You've probably heard people saying things like, oh, I'm so bad at the Umiyuri pattern. Oh, this chart has the Umiyuri pattern. Oh, it's so hard. And at some point you would have come across this pattern just by playing charts because it's so common. And especially if you're new, you probably would have been like, okay, what the hell is going on here? How is anyone supposed to read this? This Umiyuri pattern serves as one of the biggest roadblocks between the beginner to intermediate level in Maimai. In this video, I'd just like to disentangle what the hell is going on with this pattern, why it's so hard for beginners, and also explain how to practice it and how to eventually perform it. Just a fair warning that this video is more directed to people in the beginner to intermediate level. And I know a lot of people who usually watch my channel are like already pro. So if you already know how to do the Umiyuri pattern, like feel free to click off the video. But who knows, maybe you still learn something from the video. So what is the Umiyuri pattern? It's just this pattern. And the reason why it's called the Umiyuri pattern is because, to my knowledge, the pattern originated from Umiyuri Kaiteitan. And I believe this song was introduced in Orange Plus and was charted by Happy. And that chart, when it introduced the pattern, was so iconic. It's such a recognizable pattern, and it's also a pattern completely unique to Maimai, which I will get to. Ever since that chart, this pattern has been used in countless other charts, and it's essentially a fundamental pattern that every Maimai player has to learn at some point. So why is the Umiyuri pattern so prolific and so difficult for newer players to learn? It's because the pattern toys with one of the most unique mechanics in Maimai, which are sliders. More specifically, to activate the slider by hitting the star and actually sliding the slider are actually two disjointed things. And in order to perform the Umiyuri pattern, you have to disentangle the note and the slider in your mind. So just to make it clear, the way a slider works in Maimai, you hit a star, which is essentially just a normal note with a different skin, and then one beat later you slide the slide. And that one beat delay between hitting the star and sliding the slide is very hard to wrap your head around if you've just gotten into Maimai, since it's completely unique to this game. This is why even if you have like 10 years of rhythm game experience in another rhythm game, when you start Maimai, you probably have insane accuracy already, but you have no practice performing the Umiyuri pattern. It's so unique to Maimai. Most people are like on a level playing field when learning this pattern, which is why it's such a big roadblock to go from the beginner to intermediate level. Another reason why it's so hard is because not only do you have to disentangle the star and the slide, they repeat that mechanic multiple times in a row. So when you're just starting out, there's like so much going on, it's very hard for your brain to keep up. Alright, with that introduction, let's get to how to actually do the pattern and how to practice it if you're just starting to learn it. Alright, imagine this is a Maimai cave. This horribly asymmetrical circle. Oh my god, look at these two dots. Okay, wait, let me fix it. Okay, imagine this is a Maimai screen, and every dot is a button. For those of you who don't already know, each Maimai button has a name. So it's just labeled 1 to 8, and they put the letter A in front of it to differentiate between the B senses in the screen. So this button here is A1, and then it's A2, A3, and so on. I'm telling you this now just because I'm going to be referring to these buttons by these names, and I don't want you to get confused. So what actually happens in the Umiyuri pattern? The very first thing that happens is always a double note. In the example I'm going to be using, I'm just going to go off the first Umiyuri pattern in the Umiyuri chart. So the very first thing that happens is there's a note at A1 and then a star note at A8. I don't actually have a yellow marker, so they're red for now, but imagine these are yellow. You're tapping both A1 and A8 at the same time. Now, I've said before, gameplay wise, this star note acts the same as this normal note. Literally all you're doing is just hitting these two buttons. But what's special about this star note is that it activates a slide. What's special about this slide is that it's one beat after this star note. So because of that delay, stuff can happen between it, and the Umiyuri pattern takes full advantage of that. So on the side here, I'm going to go through step by step what happens every half beat of the Umiyuri pattern. So the very first beat of Umiyuri, A1 and A8 is activated. But A8 is a star note. So now a slide is activated. But remember that slide happens one beat later. So half a beat later, another note comes, and I like to call this note the AND note. So in the actual Umiyuri pattern, it was at A7. Now I like to call it the AND note because it happens between the initial activation of the slide and the slide itself. So to reiterate, A1 and A8 are hit, slide is activated, but you don't slide it yet. In between activating the slide and actually sliding it, the AND note happens. Now what happens next is the tricky part of Umiyuri. Now we are half a beat after the AND note. Therefore, we're one beat after the initial activation of the slide. So on this beat, we are going to be sliding. But we also have to hit A1 and A8 again. This time, A1 is activating another slide that happens one beat later. So you see how a lot is happening in this one beat? So you are hitting A1 and A8 and you are sliding the slide that happened one beat ago and you are activating another slide for the next beat. So I've just written here A1 and A8 and this time A1 is activating the slide. So after all of that happens, in the next half beat, we have another AND note. And this time it's an A2. So let's go over what just happened one more time. You know what? I'm going to underline where each beat happens. So it's every odd number. And these are the half beats, 2 and 4. So in the first beat, we hit A1 and A8 and activate this slide. Then the AND note happens at A7. Then we hit A1 and A8 again. And we are sliding that slide that happened one beat ago. And this is happening in the second beat. The half beat after that, we have another AND note. And then what happens? We repeat. So this might seem really complicated right now. But obviously, people don't think about all this when they play. So what do they actually think about? So the way you get good at Umiyuri is by automating this part. Step 3. Because if you don't know what's going on, this is the most cognitively intensive part of Umiyuri. So people, when they play Umiyuri, are not actually thinking, okay, we are activating the slide one beat later, and then, oh, it's one beat later now, we gotta slide. What they do at step 3, it's just one singular movement. It's hit A1 and A8 and slide. And that singular movement is just one cognitive process. And I've just added plus slide here because you're sliding the slide that was activated from here. So pretty much, once this step 3 is a singular movement, you're able to focus on actually hitting the notes that are required. These notes, that's where your focus should be. This actual slide itself should be the least cognitively intensive part. So even though this is technically correct, you shouldn't be linking this slide to the star that activated it. This should just be one movement. Once step 3 becomes one movement, it allows your brain to consciously make sure you're hitting these AND notes, which are very often missed, and also properly hitting the yellow notes. So this right here, I only want you to think of it when you're trying to understand the chart. But when you're actually performing it, it's actually not this complicated in your head. Oh, sorry, my handwriting is pretty horrible. So that's supposed to say both. This is what's actually happening, but this should be what you're thinking. So it should be both and slide and slide. So the start of Umiyuri is actually different to the rest of the pattern. To actually start it, it's both and. There's no slide yet. Once you get the pattern rolling, it's the same thing. So once you get to step 4, you just loop back to step 3 and it's slide and slide and. So a bit quicker, both and slide and slide and slide. Alright, it might look super complicated on the board, So let's look at real examples. Alright, here we have me playing the original Umiyuri chart. Alright, I'm gonna play it in quarter speed, and I'm just going to voice over that initial thought process that I went through earlier. So remember, it was both and, slide and then you repeat slide and slide and. So it's both and slide and slide and slide and slide and slide and slide. So actually at the end of the pattern, it will be slide and both. Alright, let's keep playing it because I just want to go over a variation of the initial pattern. Now we have the same pattern in terms of thought process, but we're now hitting the A2 and the A8 buttons, and the slide shape is different. So remember, the thought process is exactly the same, but once you've got that pattern nailed down, like both and slide and both, your brain power can be focused on where the notes are and how the slide is shaped, and you can think about properly hitting it. Alright, so here we have a clip of me playing Umiyuri with just the buttons and no sliding. Initially I recorded this because Amakage did this, I think, and he did his own Umiyuri tutorial, so I thought it would help, but in my opinion it doesn't really help in terms of actually performing the Umiyuri pattern, but it does help in terms of just understanding what's going on. The point of separating the slides and the notes is just to make it very clear that Umiyuri is mostly the notes that you're hitting. Once you're good, your focus should be just on hitting the notes properly and then sliding the slide correctly, if that makes sense. And none of it should be on the timing of the slide because that should be automated already. Here I play Umiyuri, but I skip the and notes. This is just another way of conceptualizing Umiyuri. If you want, you can split Umiyuri up into that main pattern plus the and notes in between. So Umiyuri is essentially this pattern, but with and notes. And if you're really stuck on Umiyuri, it's worth considering just practicing this pattern without the and notes, and then adding the and notes back in later. Alright, this chart is called Refrain, and it's a 13, and it's another song with the Umiyuri pattern. So here it's the same thing. The Umiyuri pattern starts out with both. This time it's A8 and A2. It's a bit covered by my shoulder, but you get the idea. And then it starts. So in this example, there's no and initially. It's just that both activating the slider, and then one beat later, you slide. So that first and is skipped. So the initial exercise that I mentioned where you just take out the and notes, this could help in this example. And then we start the loop. Slide and slide and slide and slide and slide and slide and Wi-Fi slide. You see how the fundamental timing and thought process of Umiyuri needs to be really solid in order to do all these different Umiyuri patterns, because the slider shapes and the positions of the notes are very different here, but that core pattern is still the same. Being good at Umiyuri means being able to focus on hitting those different notes and different slider shapes every time without too much thought into that Umiyuri timing thing of both and slide and slide. Alright, this one is wait, I forgot the name of this chart. The Ado song. I don't know how I forgot. Anyway, this time I'm going to go through it at full speed. So once again, this example skips the initial and note. So it's both slide and slide and slide, and there's no second and. So it's both slide and slide and slide and slide and slide and slide and Wi-Fi slide. They like the Wi-Fi slide. Alright, last example. This one is very well known for its Umiyuri. I would search up how to pronounce the name, but I can't be bothered right now. It's a 13 plus master and it's pretty tough. So I'm going to play this one at full speed also. So it's both and slide and slide and slide and slide and slide and slide and slide. So this one is tough because it's like a lot faster than the other ones. It's the same concept. It's also a bit tricky because it's very easy to splash the slides and you have to be very careful. Alright, thanks for watching guys. Remember to like and subscribe. No, but seriously, we're almost at 1,000 subs, so it would be really cool if we could get there. Also, join my Discord if you're interested. Between my last video and now, we've gained like almost 200 members. I've opened a 24/7 Minecraft server. We have an SLN server tag now. We have gradient colored roles. It's great. You should come check it out. And also, if you're interested in participating in my Q&As and stuff, that's the place to go. Alright, shout out to Scoogy, Tenshi, Da Baby, Deshmot, Donto, MB Masher, Susgus, Sir, Hamco, Hanzo, Melody, myself, I guess, Tay, and Zaki for financially supporting my Discord server by server boosting. So incredible. Let's freaking go. We've actually gotten so many server boosters now. It's actually kind of crazy. But I'm grateful to you all. Thank you. Don't worry, I'm still gonna make videos. I'm not gonna just like become a Discord mod. I've just been super busy lately with uni and stuff, but shit is coming, okay? Anyway, thanks for watching. Subscribe. Bye.